Well, would you look at that? Some images of a supposed remastered version of Oblivion have leaked online, and actually some further details on the game and potentially even its release date have leaked as well. I talked about the Oblivion Remake or Remaster in a video last week, and many accused me of spreading misinformation. Alright, with that out of the way, yes, the Oblivion Remake has leaked once again. If you somehow weren't convinced by some of the past insiders claiming it was real, this time we got the big one. One Reddit user discovered that on Virtuous Games' own website, a bunch of images were uploaded from an Oblivion trailer. Many of these going up earlier today, which does sort of align with the earlier leak saying that this was done by a Paris branch of Virtuous. These were posted in the middle of a Paris workday, and then after they were uploaded for some time this morning, you could just go onto parts of Virtuous's website and access these images, downloading them for yourself, or even just posting them on a bunch of websites. You can find tons of dead links of when people were embedding these all over the internet. Since that, they've started to go down, so now it'll just give you a WordPress install, which is pretty funny. But of course, tons of fans save these images anyway. But jokes aside, yeah, I think this is pretty damning that the Oblivion Remake is real. I'm certainly convinced after seeing all these images. And right off the bat, a ton of information is confirmed as a result of these. It seems like the official name will be Oblivion Remastered. From the original leak all the way back from summer of 2023, we heard how, at the time, Virtuous Games was still deciding whether to make this a remaster or a remake depending on how much of the game they plan to remake in Unreal Engine 5. Not to fully dive into it here, but basically based off that original leak, this game's being made by layering Unreal Engine 5 over Oblivion's original engine. So the reason things look like a full-on remake, the visuals of this game are absolutely stunning, is because those visuals were fully redone in UE5. But then certain other aspects of the game will feel the exact same because they weren't remade at all. Hence it being kind of a weird remaster/remake depending on which specific feature you're talking about. There's certainly going to be debate over this online. There's some stills from a trailer that will likely drop in the next week or so. This will seemingly be one of those typical Bethesda office trailers because we could see an employee in the offices. There's going to be a deluxe edition of Oblivion, and horse armor is back for this game, and perhaps even a bit more. It's hard to break down what exactly is included in this image, but to me it looks like a Saints and Seducers armor and weapon set, along with of course those horse armors, and it almost looks like there could be more. In the past, deluxe editions from Bethesda have meant gaining a few days of early access to that game. I just can't imagine they would actually try to pull off early access from a shadow drop. Like if you buy the deluxe edition today, you could play today, otherwise you have to wait a few days. But yeah, at the very least, there will be different tiers of Oblivion versions, which definitely makes me think that moddability will be a thing here, but more on that in a moment. So all of these images were discovered on the backend image hosting part of Virtuous's own website. And if you do scroll up slightly, just 2 hours prior to the Oblivion trailer shots going up, we saw a bunch of platform logos get added. Notably, Steam, Xbox, Game Pass, and PlayStation are here. So many fans are taking this to conclude that Oblivion Remastered will drop on Steam and PS5, but there's no Switch logo, so at least as of right now, there's no evidence from any of these leaks that Oblivion's coming to Switch. But even further, I would say this is sort of weak. These are just unrelated pictures in a bigger folder. Some people are also claiming they could see the PS5 logo here. I'm having a much harder time doing so. So while I would say it's probable this is coming to PS5, I wouldn't say it's confirmed as of right now. Included with all of this were a variety of pictures from the game itself, and some of these are super revealing. Some nice 19-year later comparison shots show just how much was overhauled. The lighting is completely different now, and lots of fans are actually pretty upset over this. Some are just hopeful this is a weird time of day thing, but you could just tell the game visually looks different. Assuming this isn't just a very specific time of day for both of these images, things have gone quite a bit more yellow. But further, you can see a lot more foliage around in these screenshots. Look at the amount of grass in the remastered version of the game. The water reflections are properly added in here, and even the sword model looks quite a bit more narrow. Some other leaks mentioned that they had to redo some of the hit reactions for weapons, so I wonder if they had to redo weapon hitboxes, potentially even redid some animations as well. That'd be a pretty big deal. The overall consensus is this game looks amazing, but the big question is, how does it actually feel? A lot of the leaked images were unfortunately super small, basically being the thumbnail size of that image, so it's hard to break down all that much outside of some of the bigger details of, yeah, it's Oblivion and it looks really good. And if you've never played Oblivion, it looks pretty rough by 2025 standards. It's a very old game and even feels old while you're playing it. These images just look like a massive upgrade over what we had before. I mean, even just this Imperial blurry city looks like it has so much more going on with those lighting overhauls. And this actually isn't the first time Virtuous has leaked major details around this game, as just a few months ago, an employee left up gameplay details on their personal website, which MP first spotted. And things are going to feel somewhat different in the Oblivion Remaster, because many things were modernized. Blocking was changed to be more Souls-like or similar to other action games, this suggesting a sort of parry and more of a focus on timed blocks, at least that's what I have to imagine it means. Right now in Skyrim modding, it's super popular to make the blocking and timed blocks a much larger focus of the combat loop, so it'll be interesting to see how this turns out in Oblivion. Sneak got some icon upgrades, while its damage calculations were reworked. Stamina calculation was made easier in Oblivion. When you ran out of stamina, you would more easily get knocked down, but now they made that much harder to trigger. The HUD was made easier to read and more accessible for younger players, and hit reactions and even archery were updated, which is probably good. Oblivion's combat is fairly dated compared to what you have for the average Skyrim player. I think there definitely would have been some issues around expectations for that combat. But okay, the Oblivion Remaster leaked. It seems like it's real, at least based off these images. When on earth is this coming out? Well, right now, the rumor is that this is actually not going to have a typical game release cycle, and instead is going to be getting shadow dropped. For a while, there's been back and forth on this, and it really seems like nobody has been certain about what's been going on. But basically, the rumor has been either we're getting a super close trailer, like a trailer just a week or two before the release date, or it would be a full-on hi-fi rush situation where we see the game for the first time, and that same day we're playing it for the first time because it's dropping. And it seems like that shadow drop scenario is becoming increasingly likely here. Partly because Todd Howard has been wanting to do something like this since at least 2019.
I like when you really see the game to when it's out is as short as possible.
Yeah.
As short as people will let.
You would go shorter if you could?
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe, I'm trying to think what's perfect right now. Maybe a week just to get people excited.
Right.
To have those moments of, I saw it, there's some trailers, percolates in your mind, and they're...
So as far as when this game is shadow dropping, despite what comments like to say, the release date rumor has basically stayed the same for months now. Most insiders have been claiming April, and even more specifically the back half of April, which really only started today. So we're only now just entering the potential release window according to many of these insiders if they were going to do a shadow drop.
All right, let's update on Oblivion and the shadow drop last week. I think it was last week on this show, Emma.
We were talking about it, yeah.
We were talking about it. Like, oh, yeah, it should shadow drop at any moment. I'll give people a week now. The week of April 21st. So basically the last week of this month, next week, essentially.
Yes,
so,
next week.
That it should shadow drop then, which I think, other people have said, but I've gotten separate confirmation that that's going to be the case. So
Jeff Grubb is suggesting the week of the 21st for release, which is a timeline NateTheHate has been saying for weeks now. So yeah, I would expect it then. And based off some of the comments I've read under some of these past videos, I guess I do need to clarify that the week of the 21st doesn't actually mean April 21st, but any of the days in that week, probably days after April 21st. As of right now, Thursday the 24th seems like the most likely candidate for when the Oblivion Remaster will be shadow dropping. Although I do have to imagine this all leaking because this feels like a fairly sizable leak even by Bethesda standards, and even for the Oblivion remake could affect things. I mean, this game is leaked so many times now that it feels like any surprise that was potentially there is just kind of gone now. So I wouldn't be shocked if Bethesda actually changes their plans and potentially does have a trailer come out, or maybe just moves the release date up entirely. But that's all to say that if they're just sticking to that shadow drop plan, it's very likely that we won't hear anything until next Thursday where the game will just come out. So if all of a sudden things go quiet, that doesn't mean it's all fake, it just means it's shadow dropping, like people have been saying for months now. One of the big questions around this game is mods. If this truly is using that leaked dual engine setup with Unreal Engine 5 over Gamebryo, can you even mod this game? And honestly, as of right now, we have no idea. But with how much of Bethesda's business model seems to be moving towards paid mods for their games, I just have to imagine something around this will be coming. And I could see that being a really big deal. Like, yeah, sure, we get the first proper Bethesda remaster, which in its own right is a really big deal. But then if that launches a whole new modding scene and even new modding possibilities around Oblivion that simply weren't possible before, although part of this would likely be paid mods and potentially even DLC-sized paid mods from the community, I just have to imagine all of that happening would change things or create an interesting dynamic with this remake. No matter what happens with the Oblivion Remaster, the fact that it seems to be very real now, we are kind of entering into a new chapter of Bethesda Game Studios. For the better part of the past decade, or really 2 decades, they've been very anti-remaster. Now we're getting one, and based off this leaked roadmap, they had plans to do a second one just a couple of years later. Based off the Fallout TV show's release, it seems like things have only moved up as far as timelines for Fallout games go, so overall I think this is going to be a really important time to pay attention to this company. And of course, I have to mention Oblivion here. This is a fan-made recreation of Oblivion in Skyrim's engine, which is a full and proper remake that will have full-fledged modability, so even if things don't fully pan out with this Oblivion Remastered, maybe if you don't love the game or what they did with the remake, we do have Oblivion dropping later this year either way. And to make matters particularly unfortunate, I was literally going to fly to hang out with some of these Oblivion devs on the 24th, so now it's looking like the Oblivion Remastered release will literally force me to cancel. I think I owe them some beers.
I'm on my way to Solitude. Join the Legion. A united empire is better for everyone.